Welcome back, everyone, to the Complete Pineleaf. I am back here out in the Gladden Fields where I've been asked to defeat some orcs and half-orcs throughout the area. But I, of course, I'm also still helping Radagast's friends, such as the sparrow. As you stand and curiously look at the sparrow, it lowers its beak to point at a small scroll bound to its leg. You take the scroll and begin to read. The scroll contains hastily written, which you swiftly identify as the writing of Radagast the Brown. That sounds familiar. As you read it, Radagast explains that in his travels he spoke to many of the creatures of the Vales of Anduin. Many among them told him of the strange blight creeping into the western reaches of the Gladden Fields, perhaps even in the waters of the Gladden itself. After searching the eastern reaches of the Gladden Fields, he discovered a number of tainted Gladdens, but he fears the blight will be even more severe near the marsh tender nest known as the Gilthmere and beneath the Gladden Fields. Before concluding, Radagast notes that his friend has, and very likely kindly adds, borne the empty phial to the Gladden Fields that you might retrieve a sample of the water of the Gladden Fields. As the sparrow appears content to remain perched nearby, you decide to investigate the disturbance of the Gilmere and search for signs of the blight. Alright, fine. So I'll examine Gladdens near the Gladden Falls. Those are which way? That will be in this direction, though it is difficult to see. Fear without name. While exploring the Gladden Fields, you have noticed that a number of frightened march tenders hiding amidst the reeds. Although Radagast remains uncertain as to the cause of the sudden timidity, he believes that you may be able to coax them into again serving the dutiful tenders of the Gladden Fields. Alright, calm, frightened marsh tenders. Okay, dokie. And we also have Gladden Gloomwaters to deal with every once in a while. Let's see. Not that I have a quest for it or anything like that. It looks like we have quest rings on top of some lurkers over here. Madden Mossback. Will you get out of there? Good grief. Oh, I do have a quest with those things. All right. So let me talk to these. But since they're Madden, I have a feeling it's going to turn into a combat scene. And that I'm not here to calm them down or anything like that. Well, how many of these things do I gotta kill? Half a dozen or something? Actually, there's a Gladden nearby. Or is that one of the tenders I need to? Fallen into madness. 14! Ugh. Alright. Alright. Here's one that's not mad but timid. So we want to calm the timid ones and kill the maddened ones. Okay. And of course, find some Gladdens, which are that way. I'm only halfway through my maddened tenders, but I have calmed down my quota of these. Although you do not know what caused the sudden fear, you have succeeded in calming a number of marsh tenders. How nice. Now, let's get on to the point of being exactly halfway through of my turn, because I think I was one short on the halfway point for the maddened ones. So I got a lot more of those to go through before I'll be all through with them. And they're sending roots after me, because there are slight variations of these also. Ah, I have found some of the Gladdens. There you go. The petals of these Gladdens are marked with round patches of an undefinable blight. So there's a blight around, but we don't know quite what it is. Are there any others? How many of them are infected, and how many of them are still clean? This one is brown patches of undefinable blight. This one is blighted. Blighted. It appears that all of them are blighted. Oh, hold on. These glands are free of blight. Maybe there is still hope. Alright. Well, let's go to the falls and get some water. Here's the waterfall, and we'll see if this has anything good in it. Let's collect our water. Good. And we'll just bring this back to the sparrow. Ah, here's the sparrow. The sparrow appears to have awaited your return. It points its beak to its leg, and you realize it intends to return to Radagast with the scroll and the small phial of water you collected. You gently tie the phial of water to one of the sparrow's legs and produce the scroll Radagast prepared for you. You turn over the scroll and begin to write on the side Radagast left blank. You tell Radagast that many of the Gladdens near the Gladden Falls have become blighted, but a few still show no signs of disease, meaning one set. You also noted that the water of the Gladden Falls appears to be solid, but you are uncertain as to the source of the pollution. Alright, you roll the scroll in and bind it to the sparrow's other leg. There we go. And it flies away so quickly that I didn't even see it take off. Now, what about the third friend? Ah, a bunting. Perhaps it has a note? Yes, it does. The scroll contains hastily written, which is swiftly identified as the writing of Radagast of Brown. Who else? As you read on, Radagast explains that a company of orcs who survived the end of the war have now made a camp at a place called Lulstroke in the Gladden Fields. Radagast's writing continues that he describes how, until a few days ago, the orcs had apparently often feuded with the men and half-orcs of the center of the Gladden Fields, but they did not seem to pose a serious threat to the Wilderfolk. However, Radagast now fears they have been stirred by the words of a large orc amongst their number, and as a consequence, they have grown more bold in recent days. Troubled by the harm their siege engines might inflict upon the Gladdenfields, and concerned that the orcs might soon attack the Bjornings and the woodsmen, Radagast concludes by asking me to drive these orcs away. Alright, fine. Let's go and investigate. A thunder of drums. Anyway, I do need to kill some orcs and half orcs or something like that. I'll go find out as soon as I get to this Lulstroke. Let's get rid of that. Oh, this way! This appears to be an outpost of the Shapok High. What else is new? Well then, let's deal with them. Because we need to kill some orcs. Probably even more than Gandalf asked for. As I see a ring upon this orc. And this ring probably means that he is to be killed. As well as several of... What, there's more than one? Let's see. Collect shorn beards from the Shopshack High in Lilsock. Okay, after defeating them at Lilsock, you notice that a trinket hanging from him, a shorn dwarf beard. Alright, well, we'll get rid of those things, and let us take care of the banner. Tribe of Vengeance. As you press deeper into the Lilstock, you notice that the banners fly there, so let's get rid of those. Alright, good. And word of Mazok. After discovering an encampment of Shapachai in the Gladden Fields, you recall Mazok's last words in the Tower of Dol Guldur. Whenever your people catch a glint of gold or silver or gems beneath the mountains, there will be an orc to slay him. Everyone. That is my vow. That is the word of Mazog. It seems that Mazog's words have not gone unheeded by the orcs of Moria. So let's defeat them. So let's take care of 12 of them. Hello. You're part of the select dozen who are going to be killed by me. Okay, I'm probably going to be killing a lot more than a dozen of them. But this is a good start, right? Yeah. There you go. Yep, a lot more. At least 3 times as many as Gandalf asked me to kill. Now, let's see. Where are we going here? Alright, let's start out in this area. Oh, a defiler. I don't have to deal with the defilers. Be careful because I know they just... Actually, I am not going to stop that one because he could do nastier things to me. And I'd like to be able to get rid of the nastier ones. There you go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think I'd have any trouble finding enough orcs to kill. Now, so I have to also kill half orcs, which probably means going to Sharky Slough in order to slay a few of these. At least that's the way I think it's most likely going to go. Here's one of those siege towers. Let's sabotage their wheels. And we hope that we can do more damage to this than we did to Grond. And 1. 2. Now to the other side. And just make sure that I'm not standing next to it when the whole thing comes down. Yeah, that would be a pity if I got killed by a collapsing siege tower after all this time. There we go. Now, there must be another one somewhere. Now that I've killed several of the orcs here and have taken care of their siege engines, it's time to see if I can find their leader and do something about him. Hello! The sound of the drum echoes through Lushlock. A harsh voice says, I thought you might be a sticking your nose where it don't belong again. You won't be topsides on me this time. Oh, Durkhat. Okay. We finally get to go against each other again? Well, we'll see. You're friends with the Iron Garrison, are you? Pity how that turned out. Yeah, the Iron Garrison did eventually have to leave. I guess I sort of skipped that storyline. Vengeance from Mazog will be done. The Popum will not have forgotten. There we go. Well, you're gone at last. Alright. Well, I guess I can go back to the bunting then. I am back from killing the orcs. The bunting appears to have awaited me. You turn over the scroll and begin to write on the other side. You tell Radagast of the victory over the Shaphakai in the Vales of Anduin. However, you mention that the orcs, once loyal to Mazog, now seek vengeance against the dwarves who escaped the downfall of the Iron Garrison. Whether they resurface in days soon to come or many years from now, the Battle of Moria is not yet ended. Alright. So long. And now, I suppose I can say that's over with. Now, let's get back to, oh yes, the slough so that I can take care of the half-orcs. Back to Sharky Slough, and there should be half-orcs in this area, such as right over here. Looks like I'll get half of my quota just from this group. So if I find a similar camp to this, I should be done with this in no time. Well, I think these guys are going to give me... Well, actually, that was a ruffian, not a half-orc. Alright, so it's going to take more than 2 camps in order to finish this off, it looks like. But this one is a half-orc. So right, so 2 half-orcs, not 3. Well, it's a start at least. With that done, I have found Gandalf again. Hello.
You know the War of the Last Alliance and the siege of Barad-dûr that concluded the Second Age.
When the fighting of the war was done, the several kindreds that came together for the defeat of Sauron faced long roads back to the respective homelands. With the death of his father, Elendil, Isildur ascended to the kingship. After 2 years of ordering the affairs of Gondor, he set forth to claim his father's throne at Annúminas. He bore the shards of his father's sword, Narsil, which had been broken when Sauron was defeated. He bore another artifact in secret, the ruling ring he had taken from Sauron's hand. Let us walk southeast along the road into Lariland, my friend. Further ahead, we will speak of Isildur's journey. Okay. Alright, if you say so. Here we are in Lariland.
Isildur rode from Minas Tirith with a small company, including his 3 eldest sons.
He followed the river Anduin northward. He planned to cross the Misty Mountains, where he would be reunited with his youngest son, Valandil. Being but a child and too young for war, Valandil had remained behind in the safety of Rivendell, and it was for that hidden valley that Isildur intended to ride. But the ring he bore was no mere trinket. Already it yearned to return to its master. It would prove Isildur's undoing. Look around us, Pineleaf. More than 3,000 years have passed since Isildur came this way, but the shape of the land has changed little. This is what he would have seen as he rode, as the company of his sons and his men-at-arms little suspected the danger the ring would draw. All right, fine, I'll look around at the countryside here. Despite the warmth of springtime, you feel a chill in the air.
The War of the Last Alliance had ended in victory. Did that success blind Isildur and his men?
Did Isildur think the shadow was gone forever, and dark things could trouble him no more? I don't know for certain. They lived in fear of Sauron's evil for so long that it seems to me they may have met his defeat with doubt that it would last. Whether they did or did not, it is true that dark things abide still in Middle-earth. The orcs of Wilderland lay in wait, lurking within the shadows of Mirkwood. Perhaps they heard rumor of Isildur's approach, or perhaps the ring called out to them. Let us continue on the road, Pineleaf. We walk in the footsteps of Isildur's company, even 3,000 years later. Another sight of the event?
The orcs struck as Isildur's company crossed near to the Gladden fields.
The attack came in darkness, when neither sun nor moon in the sky, and in the blackness the orcs had the greatest advantage. Look around us, Pineleaf. Isildur and his men were unfamiliar with the lay of the land, but their foes ranged it for years, plundering the towns and villages of Wilderland. As you survey the terrain, you can almost hear the harsh war cries of the orcs. Oh, I thought it was the walking of a horn down there.
The orcs descended upon Isildur's band with ravenous fury.
Even so, it was a hard fight. The men of Gondor were strong and valiant, and they had much skill at arms. Do not forget that they were survivors of the great war against Mordor, and years of battle had hardened their courage and their resolve. But the orcs were many, and they were treacherous foes, prone to trickery. Their warriors practiced the arts of not just of combat, but of deception. The battle that followed was brutal, and blood soaked the hills. Onward, Pineleaf! The end of the story draws near. It lies to the northwest. Climb down the slope to the bank of the river and meet me further north. All right, let's go. Up this way, I presume? Yes?
Isildur pressed north, harried by his enemies, but he did not make it far.
The orcs proved relentless, and for every one the Dunedain killed, two more leapt forward in its stead. Soon the dwindling company could go no further, and Isildur knew there could be no escape. He watched as his knights, his captains, and even his own sons fell in the affray. Look around as he did, Pineleaf, and images of the encircling hordes drawing ever nearer. Oh, imagine, yes, imagine them drawing ever nearer. What did Isildur feel at the battle turned against him? Well, who knows? We'll never know,
Of
probably.
his men, only 3 survived. One of these was Othtar, Isildur's own esquire.
One of the survivors was Othar, with whom the doomed king entrusted the shards of Narsil. He bade Othar to bring the broken blade to Rivendell. Did the squire obey the Lord's command without complaint, or did he wish to stand by his king and die with him? We do not know for certain. What we do know is that Othar managed to slip away during the confusion of battle, and after much toil and danger in the wilderness, he came to Rivendell safely, bearing the shards of Narsil. They became an heirloom of Isildur's line ever after, in honor and later amongst the Rangers of the Wild. Our account of Isildur ends with the departure of Othar. The squire believed Isildur fought on, even without hope of victory. But for long years, even the wise did not know.
For many years following the disaster of the Gladden fields, none knew what became of Isildur.
Most believed that Isildur perished in the ambush shortly after Othar escaped from the shards of Narsil, for there were no further words of the king. His body was never found, and there was no claim for ransom by the orcs or their masters. But in time, the wise learned his true fate. After sending Othar away, Isildur saw but one hope for his survival. Refusing to allow the ring to fall back into the hands of the enemy, he put it on and disappeared even amidst the tumult of the battle. Leaving the orcs to the fury of their confusion, he fled into the river and sought to swim across. See the islet over yonder, to the west? I believe that is where the son of Elendil intended to go. Let us follow him, Pineleaf, and pick up the story's ending. Alright. Are you telling me that this islet over there survived for 3,000 years in a river the size of the Anduin? Well, I won't place bets on that. This is more substantial than I was expecting, and perhaps it did survive for 3,000 years. What do you say?
The river Anduin is mighty, and it was no less so when Isildur sought to swim across.
The effort of swimming across nearly killed Isildur, but still he managed to reach the island. But alas! While he was still in the water, the ring betrayed him. It slipped from his finger and was lost. Even when the wise pieced together the account of the events, we did not know the truth entirely. We believed the ring had been born on the current of the sea, and that it left this Middle-earth. The truth and the rediscovery of the ring has now shown otherwise. Look around you, and imagine Isildur's despair as he rose from the water without the enemy's ring. The sound of the water rushing by fills your ears, but all else is quiet. No orcs to worry about.
Bereft of the safety provided by the ring's power, Isildur did not live for much longer.
The orc spied him standing by the water and shot him with arrows. As the tales say, he breathed his last tear in the Gladden fields. I believe it happened on this very eyot, which is why these flowers bloom here still, rather than in the Gladdens that spring to life elsewhere in the fields. Symbilmine they are called in Rohan, where they cover the grave mounds of many dead kings. And so Isildur at last met his end, betrayed by the ring, and slain by his foes before he could return to the lands he hoped to rule. But his tomb at Anuminus stands empty, where his bones remain unfound to this day.
That is the end of the tale, and it has taken many years to piece it together.
The unassuming island in the Aduing has shaped the fate of Middle-earth in its own way, has it not? How might things have transpired had Isildur not swam across the river to reach it? Agents of Sauron would have taken the ring from his body, and the Dark Lord's dominance would be all but assured. Be glad that it is not so. The ring worked great evil on its course, but in the end the actions of Isildur enabled its destruction, these many years later. I've enjoyed our walk, my friend, and now I'll return to the Bjorninghus and resume my study of the Black Book. I'll meet you there. Before you return, I ask you to pay a visit to Hutvis, the village of the woodmen of Woodsedge. They suffered greatly during the War of the Ring, and their efforts to rebuild and return their lives to normal has not yet borne fruit. Well, I've been helping them a little bit. You said that you've already lent your aid to the woodsman? I know that, Pine Leaf. Do you think I would ask you to return without reason? If you have the good fortune to know a wizard, know that he is not to be ignored. Go to Hootvis and ask me no more questions. Well, I need to go there anyway because I need to report back to Radagast, which is what I'll do in the next episode of The Complete Pine Leaf.